Your presence here is not accidental. This video is not intended for a distracted glance, but manifests itself when an inner awakening begins to unfold. Thoth, scribe of the gods, does not divulge his arcana indiscriminately. He reveals them only at the precise moment in which a soul reaches the necessary maturity. If this message has reached you now, it means that the time has come to reconnect with your most authentic essence. For millennia, this knowledge has remained guarded in enigmatic symbols, hidden within arcane rituals, lost to entire civilizations. Today, however, it is accessible again, and you are about to understand why. Many will ignore it. Others will feel its call, but only those who are fully prepared will be able to embody it in its totality. Magic is not illusion, but the art of governing imperceptible causes so that the invisible becomes inevitable. If these words have sparked a spark in you, leave a like immediately. It is not a mechanical gesture, but a signal, a way of saying, yes, Thoth has spoken to me too. Every like is an echo in the imperceptible, a confirmation that this message has found its chosen community. And when you do, I will be aware of it, because those who are ready do not need explanations. What if I told you that there is a force behind everything that is created, visible or invisible, and that Thoth is the silent intermediary of that force? The ancient Egyptians did not believe that the world came into being by chance. For them, nothing happened without a purpose, nothing was formed without intention. Before creation there was thought, and before thought could become reality, someone had to put it into words. This is where Thoth comes in. He was not just a scribe who wrote down the whims of the gods. He was the very embodiment of sacred language, the bridge between idea and existence. On the Shabaka Stele, one of the oldest testimonies of Egyptian theology, there is a surprising detail. While the heart of Atum generated the desire to create, it was the tongue symbolized by Thoth that gave form to that desire. The heart thinks, the tongue manifests, and Thoth is both. He represents the missing link between the invisible and the visible, between what is not yet and what is beginning to be. And here is something interesting. When the Egyptians spoke of creation, they didn't speak of magic. They spoke of rhythm, of order, of balance. Nothing was created chaotically. Everything followed a frequency, and Thoth was the guardian of that frequency. That's why he was also the god of time. Not the chronological time we always chase, but sacred time. The right moment for everything to happen, the moment a truth is born, the exact instant the soul awakens. Can you see how profound that is? For them, speaking was a spiritual act. Every word in alignment with the divine. Every sound emitted an invitation for the invisible to become matter. And all this passed through Thoth, a bird that lives on silent shores, associated with the moon, with the wisdom that observes without haste. It is not a coincidence. The moon measures time in cycles, just as the awakening mind needs layers, phases, returns. Thoth is not a god of immediate answers. He is the one who observes your thoughts before they become choices, the one who scrutinizes your words before they shape destinies, the one who whispers when you finally quiet down inside. And that is what the ancient initiates knew, that it was not enough to think, it was not enough to want. It was necessary to align intention, word, time, and consciousness, because only when everything is in harmony, reality responds. And Thoth was there, silent, recording it all. Every misalignment, every attunement, every moment when the being moved away, and every moment when it found itself. But what almost no one realizes is that this pattern is not trapped in ancient myths. It is active now. It pulsates within you. The same pattern that the Egyptians saw in the cosmos also exists in your mind, in your language, in your vibration. And now perhaps for the first time you begin to notice that creation has never been something distant. It has always been something intimate. But if Thoth was the one who manifested the thought of God, how can this sacred architecture be accessible to an ordinary human being? How can that same structure of manifestation be activated within you, here and now? The word that creates the verb is a conscious force, and this is where things start to get even more profound. Because when we talk about Thoth as the bridge between thought and reality, We are not talking about a poetic metaphor. We are talking about an actual vibrational spiritual mechanism. You know that phrase in the Gospel of John, "In the beginning was the Word." Yes, it did not originate in Christianity. It is an echo, a distant reverberation of something the Egyptians knew thousands of years before. For them, the word was not just any word. It was an active principle, a living force, something that not only describes, but creates. And this is the part that most people overlook. A word is not just a sound. It is not just what comes out of your mouth. The word is vibration. The word is a subtle form of living geometry. It carries with it rhythm, intention, frequency, meaning, and above all, consequence. In ancient Egypt, everything was measured in terms of cosmic harmony. Thoth's role was to record the movements of the universal order, what they called ma'at, and to make sure that nothing fell out of that flow. But that order was not imposed from outside. It came from the alignment of intention and expression. In other words, it wasn't enough to want something. It wasn't enough to feel something. It had to be aligned with the vibration of the word. Thoth didn't just write stories. He codified what was behind them. He saw the invisible that gave rise to the visible. He noted the spiritual weight of every choice, every sound spoken, every thought transformed into language, because he knew that every creation begins with the word. But not just any word, the living word, the one that carries within it a conscious intention. That is why in the ancient initiations, before a disciple could learn magic, he had to learn silence, because the power of the word is no joke. If used unconsciously, it destroys. If used consciously, it manifests. And now stop and think for a second. How many words do you throw away every day without realizing it? How many times do you say things like, "My life is difficult, nothing ever works out for me, I am unlucky"? How many times do you repeat phrases that seem harmless but are actually programming your vibrational field like a reverse spell? Do you see? You are not just speaking, you are creating. With every sentence, you plant something, and the universe, which is responsive by nature, does not respond to what you want, it responds to what you vibrate. Thoth understood this perfectly. He did not judge desires, he simply recorded vibrations. Because the universe does not operate on merit, it operates on coherence. What you say with truth, with presence, with inner alignment finds an echo. What you say out of habit, without soul, without attention, becomes noise. And noise within a living system becomes imbalance. This is why so many people live in conflict with their own reality. They say things that vibrate differently than what they feel. They desire the opposite of what they believe. They manifest what they fear the most. And then they think the world is against them. But it's not the world, it's the word, it's the frequency that emanates from within them. And that frequency is shaping everything. Now imagine if you began to look at every word as a creative act, if you treated your speaking like a ritual, if you realized that the way you talk about your life is exactly the way it will unfold. Would you still say what you say? Would you still use words carelessly as a vent, as an unconscious complaint? Thoth didn't have to shout. He only said what was necessary, and because of that, everything he said became real. Abracadabra, the echo of a lost code. And maybe you think you've heard all this before. Maybe you think you know this story. But the truth is that one of the most powerful words ever created has been turned into a joke, distorted, hollowed out, cast into the realm of children's magic and superficial entertainment. Yes, that's what we're talking about. Abracadabra today. When you hear that word, you imagine someone pulling a rabbit out of a hat. But what almost no one knows is that it comes from a sacred language, ancient Aramaic. Abracadabra, literally translated, I create as I speak. It is not a spell, it is a principle, a forgotten key to the sacred language, a formula that echoes the same spiritual foundations recognized by several initiatory cultures, including the vibrational roots of the Egyptians. Eliphas Levi, one of the most influential occultists of the 19th century, said that abracadabra was not a decorative word, but a symbol of spiritual geometry. In schools of practical Kabbalah, it was written in the form of an inverted triangle, losing one letter per line until only a dot remained. That image symbolized the collapse of creation into the center of the self, a reduction of creative energy to the core of its conscious source. And here is something essential. The power of the word does not reside in the language. It resides in the vibration. The sound itself carries a frequency. The tone, the rhythm, the intention. All of this is part of the formula. In the most ancient spiritual traditions, among the Chaldeans, Hebrews, and Egyptians, certain sounds were sung not to impress but to activate subtle realities. The word was used with reverence, with precision, with purpose. And perhaps at this point you begin to understand why Thoth is remembered, not as a creator of magical formulas, but as a symbol of the divine intelligence that connects the invisible to the visible, the one who represents the vibration that transforms intention into form, not because he invented these formulas, but because he designs the space in which they can exist. Now take a deep breath and think, how many words do you throw away every day without realizing it? How many times do you say, "My life is hard, I never get lucky, this will never work"? Without realizing it, you are declaring your reality like someone casting a spell in reverse, an abracadabra in reverse. This is what shocks many when they wake up realizing that the reality they live in has not been forced from the outside. It was whispered silently every day by their own voice. And that repetition shaped their field, their vibration, their destiny. But now, you can start doing it differently. You can start speaking differently. Not as someone trying to assert something they don't feel, but as someone starting to remember that speaking is one of the most direct bridges between spirit and the world. And maybe, just maybe, that word that seems silly, almost childish, is a fragment of a much older system, a code of manifestation that has been diluted over time, hidden among symbols, dispersed among different cultures, but that can still be reactivated. What if that code was just a door? What if there was something even greater, hidden just beyond it? But not everyone was ready for that truth. The Book of Thoth, between gift and condemnation. In the records of Egypt from the Ptolemaic period, an ancient text known as the Tale of Setna Kamwas and Neferkapa reveals a story that at first glance seems like a legend, but carries a message too profound to be ignored. According to the text, there was a hidden book, a book attributed to Thoth, kept in a chest surrounded by snakes, sealed with spells and layers of protection. And within it, two spells. The first allowed one to hear the language of animals and control the heavens, the waters, and the earth. The second, even more dangerous, allowed one to see the gods themselves. But what happened to those who dared to touch it before they were ready? Neferkaptor found the book. He broke the seals, he read the spells, and because of it, he lost what was most precious to him. His son died, his wife died, and though he kept the book with her body in the tomb, he could not escape the price. Years later, Setna, drawn by the promise of power, sought the same book. And again, the consequences were immediate. His mind was overwhelmed by illusions, his family put at risk, and his soul nearly dragged to ruin. Do you see how serious this is? It was not just a magical object. The book was symbolic, a mirror. It did not grant power. It revealed whether the soul was capable of withstanding it. And if the ego was greater than the awareness, knowledge itself became destruction. The teaching is not in the incantation or the invocation. It is in the posture of those who approach the mystery. For no wisdom can survive in arrogant hands, and no sacred gift can remain with those who seek it out of vanity. This is the true initiation, to be touched by the mystery without being consumed by it. And perhaps this book, so sought after by kings, magicians, and priests, was never a literal object. Perhaps it represents a state of access, a level of inner vibration where certain truths are finally revealed. But for that to happen, something has to break, not outside of you, but inside. And this is where we begin to understand Thoth's role as the one who watches, records, and balances. Not as someone who judges, but as someone who shows the exact reflection of what each soul is vibrating. In the Book of the Dead, Thoth appears in one of the most iconic scenes of Egyptian tradition. The soul just passed away is led to the Hall of Judgment. At the center of the scene, a scale. On one side, the feather of Ma'at, the symbol of cosmic truth. On the other, the heart of the deceased. And Thoth is the one who writes down the result. But here is the detail that changes everything. This judgment does not begin after death. It is already happening now. With every thought you accept as truth, with every word you repeat without awareness, with every emotion you feed day after day, all of this is recorded not by a distant God, but in your own vibrational field. And the scale is still there, not as a punishment, but as a mirror, because the reality you live is not random. It is the reading of what is written inside you. Life does not respond to what you desire. It responds to what you are. And the cruelest or most liberating part of this truth is that most people try to change the external world without ever asking themselves what is transmitted from within. You can repeat positive affirmations all day, but if your vibration is rooted in fear, anger, scarcity, the scales don't lie. The judgment is not out there. It's right here, in the way you live, the way you think, the way you react to the world. And it's not Thoth punishing you. It's the frequency you hold that decides what stays and what falls apart. Manifestation is not a desire. It's a tuning in, and that's where most people get stuck, because all your life you've been taught to want a car, a job, love, healing, a way out. But almost no one taught you how to tune in. In the tradition of Kabbalah, one of the oldest and most profound schools of wisdom in the world, the concept of manifestation is completely different from the logic of modern desire. There, the verb to manifest does not mean to force reality to obey. It means to align it with what is already true within you. The word Kabbalah comes from the Hebrew Kabbalah, which means to receive. And here is the secret. You receive only what you are in tune with, not what you beg for, not what you visualize for 5 minutes and then forget, but what pulsates within you in a coherent and constant way. According to the Tree of Life, the spiritual map of the Kabbalah, the reality we live in is called Malkuth, the kingdom. It is the densest plane. What we can touch, matter. But nothing reaches Malkuth from nothing. Before something becomes real, it must pass through a vibrational chain. It begins in Keter, the crown, the point of origin, passes through Baina, the structure of intention, descends through Tiferet, the heart center where emotional truth lives, arrives in Yesod, the foundation, the word as a form of channeling, and only then manifests here in Malkuth. This is the path of creation, and it is no coincidence that this path resonates with what the Egyptian schools taught in the initiatory rituals linked to Thoth. Nothing is created directly in matter. Everything is a sequence, a journey, a process. And if somewhere along that chain you break the coherence, if the intention is not aligned with the emotion, if the emotion does not vibrate with the word, what reaches reality is a distortion. This is why so many people desire and do not manifest. Because what you want is in conflict with what you vibrate. What you think is at war with what you feel. And in that inner conflict, your vibrational field becomes unstable. Manifestation gets stuck. You don't create what you want. You create what you are ready to support. Reality is just a reflection of the inner structure you feed every day. So now here's the question. Are you trying to manifest from the anxiety of wanting something, or from the coherence between mind, emotion, intention, and presence? Because if everything is out of alignment, it doesn't matter how much you ask. What comes will always be fragmented. And at this point we enter another ancient symbol that holds more wisdom than it seems. 5 syllables, abracadabra, 5 points, the pentagram, 5 elements, earth, water, air, fire, and ether. For centuries, the pentagram has been used as a symbol of protection, of harmony, of integrating the elements into the self. Pythagoras used it as sacred geometry, and medieval alchemists adopted it as a spiritual formula. But almost no one understands what it really means. It is not just a star. It is a reminder that spirit must be at the center, and that the elements must rotate in balance around it. Each point represents a force. Earth, your body, your structure, your roots. Water, your emotions, your memory, your sensitivity, air, your thoughts, your ideas, your mind, fire, your action, your passion, your life force, and above, ether, the consciousness, the invisible that gives life to everything. The pentagram is you, you at the center of the universe, you as a microcosm of everything, you as a living temple. But it is not enough to know it, you have to activate it. And activation does not happen through technique, it happens through presence, when you honor each element within you. When you take care of your land, purify your water, calm your air, direct your fire, and reconnect with your spirit. At that moment, the star is no longer outside. It pulsates inside you, and the word you speak, even in silence, becomes creative. But every structure needs a base, and even the pentagram must be supported by something, because if there is no root, any symbol becomes just decoration, and any knowledge turns into another beautiful theory. So tell me, what holds all these elements together inside you? You are the last tablet. This is the message that Thoth writes now, and this is where many get lost. Because after discovering the power of the word, the temptation is to use it without measure, to say everything, reveal everything, repeat, teach, affirm. But the ancients knew that not every truth is ready to be spoken, and the more sacred something is, the more silence it requires around itself. In the Egyptian mysteries, the sacred word was always surrounded by a ritual silence, not as censorship, but as protection, not to hide, but to preserve. Thoth, as a symbol of the intelligence that manifests the unseen, also represents the intelligence that knows when to be silent, for before the creative word comes, the fertile silence. Before the sound comes the space in which the sound will vibrate, and that space must be clean. That is why the initiates took a vow of silence. It was not a vow of fear, it was a vow of alignment. They knew that the word born of an impatient ego, a restless mind, or a wounded heart creates nothing. Only confusion, only dilution, only noise. But the word that is born from silence, that crosses dimensions. That is why the great masters spoke little, not because they knew less, but because they knew too much to waste it on ears not yet ready, because every word has a price, and every sacred word spoken with awareness opens portals, portals of understanding, portals of healing, portals of revelation. That is why Thoth did not speak to impress. He spoke to write, to leave a mark where before there was only chaos. And maybe you feel it now. This silent moment between understanding and transformation. That exact point where something inside you understands that it is no longer about saying what you know, but about living what you have remembered. And this is the point in the journey where everything changes, because what was a search becomes recognition, and what was a path becomes a mirror. You are no longer trying to find the book of Thoth. You realize that you are the one written in that book. The revelation is not in the papyrus, it is not in the stone. It is here, in your body that vibrates, in your heart that awakens, in your consciousness that aligns. You are the last tablet. You are the space where the final message is written, because Thoth, as a symbol of cosmic order, left no formulas, he left paths. And those paths open when you realize that you no longer have to chase signs. You are the sign. You are no longer searching, you are remembering. And if this memory has found you now, it is because the time has come. You did not find this video by chance. You did not stumble upon these words by chance. You did not feel that thrill for no reason. It is because the time has come not to manifest what you want, but to manifest who you truly are. Now that you have come this far, you may be wondering, now what? What can I do with all this? Because awakening without action is just another distraction. And you did not come this far to get stuck in another beautiful concept. You came to remember, to integrate, to transform. So take a deep breath and let's bring this to earth. If there is one thing that has become clear on this journey, it is that manifestation is not an act of will. It is an alignment of vibration. It is a state of coherence between what you think, feel, say, and live. And this is not built in a day, but it can start today with something simple. Now I will give you a daily practice inspired by the principles that I've run through this video, from the wisdom of Thoth to the structure of the tree of life, from the power of the word to the silence that precedes it. It is not a magic formula, it is a vibrational practice. And the more you repeat it with awareness, the more your field begins to change. Before you start your day, spend 2 minutes in complete silence. No phone, no to-do list. Sit, breathe, observe your mind. Let the thoughts pass without holding on to any of them. This space creates the inner ether, the subtle element in which your word will have power. Now choose a single affirmative sentence to repeat with presence, but not just any sentence. It must reflect what you want to support, not what you want to achieve. Example: my consciousness guides my reality. I only speak what I am ready to live. I am one with the invisible order that supports everything. Say it out loud 3 times with your body erect, feet on the ground, eyes closed. Feel the vibration of the phrase spreading through you. Now do a simple action with full presence. It could be making coffee, making your bed, lighting a candle, but do it as if you were writing a new line in your book of Thoth, with intention, with care, as if each gesture were recorded in the universe, because it is. Throughout the day, watch your speech, not to censor yourself, but to take responsibility. Have you said something that is not aligned with who you want to be? Fix it. Breathe and say it again, this time with consistency. You don't have to become a mystic, you just have to remember that everything you say is creating your field and everything you repeat becomes reality. This is the principle behind abracadabra. This is the symbol hidden in the scales of Thoth. This is the root of all true manifestation. You create as you speak, but you only manifest what you are ready to hold. So use the word as a sacred instrument. Make silence the temple where it takes shape, and transform your existence into tangible testimony that spirituality is not mere abstraction, but applicable reality. It is essential, it is current, it is immediate. By observing this practice for 7 consecutive days with authentic presence, you will perceive its effectiveness. And once you have experienced this awareness, you will refuse to fall back into the automatisms of the past. Because those who have known the power of a coherent existence are no longer satisfied with a life of inertia. So tell me, are you willing to embody what you profess? If these truths have resonated in your essence, if they have lit your inner fire, act immediately. Put a seal of your inner awakening. Not a mere digital gesture, but a contemporary hieroglyph that proclaims, I am ready. Leave a comment, a symbolic stele for those who come after. Even just one word, as long as it is full of vital meaning. And subscribe, an act of entry into the digital shrine of those who no longer ask the universe for permission to fully exist. Do not lose this spark. Thoth is recording every move. Let this be your first conscious act. Move forward into the light. With sincere anticipation, see you soon.